What did humans do before language? Right now, your brain is doing something so automatic, you don't even notice it. You're turning symbols into meaning. Every word you read creates images, ideas, memories, entire worlds. Language feels invisible. But imagine waking up tomorrow and language is gone. No words, no names, no pass me that, no I love you, no don't touch that, no what if. Just sounds, faces, movement, silence. It's difficult to imagine because language feels like the operating system of being human. But for almost all of evolutionary history, humans existed without anything like modern language. No sentences, no grammar, no stories about what happened yesterday, no arguments online. Which, depending on your opinion of the internet, may actually have been an improvement. So what did humans do before language? And more importantly, how did they become human enough to invent it? Let's start with something surprising. You are communicating right now, even if you don't say anything. Humans are terrible at staying silent. You raise your eyebrows, shift posture, change breathing, look away, smile, cross your arms. Every second your body leaks information. Language didn't replace this. Language was built on top of it. And long before words, our ancestors were already experts at reading each other. Primates today can communicate a lot without language. Chimpanzees understand gestures. They recruit allies. They negotiate. They deceive. They comfort. They reconcile after fights. They even perform what researchers sometimes call intentional communication. Meaning, they don't just make noises. They try to make someone understand something. Sound familiar? Now imagine a creature slightly more social, slightly more cooperative, slightly less covered in hair. Congratulations, you've built early humans. For millions of years, our ancestors probably lived through something scientists sometimes call multimodal communication. That sounds complicated. It means they used everything: hands, faces, posture, touch, vocal sounds, eye direction, context. Imagine trying to communicate entirely through charades, except everyone is unbelievably good at charades. You point, you grunt, you stare at the tree, you pick up a stick, you mimic the animal. Everybody understands, mostly. Sometimes, hopefully, because misunderstandings had consequences. If your version of "there's a leopard nearby" accidentally looked too similar to "look at that cool cloud," your evolutionary career ended early, and surprisingly, modern humans still work like this. Studies estimate a huge amount of emotional meaning in conversation comes from tone, expression, and context. Words matter, but words alone are incomplete. If I say great, that could mean happiness, anger, sarcasm, disappointment, existential collapse. Depends entirely on how I say it. Language didn't invent communication, it compressed it. But eventually something changed. At some point, our ancestors started communicating about things that weren't here, and this is where everything gets weird. Most animals communicate about the present: food, danger, mating, status, immediate problems. Humans communicate about imaginary things: tomorrow, ancestors, rules, gods, money. You have probably felt stress about events that do not exist yet. That is an extremely human experience. Scientists sometimes call this displacement, the ability to talk about absent things. And once you can do that, civilization becomes possible. But before full language, how did people coordinate? Imagine a hunting group, no words. One person freezes, points, another crouches. Everyone becomes quiet. One hunter imitates movement. Someone taps twice, someone gestures left. Nobody says, "Gentlemen," according to our strategic analysis. And yet they succeed. Researchers studying traditional hunting societies repeatedly observe that silent coordination is incredibly sophisticated. People often communicate through tiny signals. Humans are unusually good at shared attention. You look. I notice where you look. You notice that I noticed. Now we both know. That sounds small. But that ability changed history. Psychologists call this joint attention. Children begin doing it before speaking. Pointing may be one of the foundations of language itself. Your toddler pointing at a dog might be reenacting one of the oldest cognitive technologies humanity ever invented. Then came fire. And fire may have changed everything, because fire created evenings. Hours where people weren't moving. Hours where people sat together. Hours where communication became social instead of practical. Nobody knows exactly when language emerged. The estimates vary wildly. Some researchers argue pieces appeared over hundreds of thousands of years. Others think fully modern language emerged much later. The honest answer is, we don't know. Language leaves almost no fossils. Words disappear. Tongues rot. Conversations leave nothing behind. But behavior leaves clues. Around 100,000 years ago, something starts appearing more frequently. Symbolic objects, decorated shells, pigments, intentional markings, long-distance exchange, and eventually, art. Art matters because art is communication that survives. A handprint on a cave wall says, "I was here," even if nobody spoke, even if the language disappeared. Someone wanted another human to understand something. That desire might be older than language itself. And here's a strange possibility. Early language may not have started with information. It may have started with relationships. Modern humans talk constantly. But if you record actual conversations, a shocking amount isn't practical. We gossip, we joke, we repeat stories, we narrate obvious things. We send messages that say, "okay," then send another message that says, "thanks." Then react with a thumbs up, then send a heart. Then somehow still continue. Researchers have proposed that language evolved partly because grooming stopped scaling. Primates build relationships by grooming, but grooming takes time. You can groom one individual. Talking lets one person bond with many. Conversation became social grooming, which means your group chat may be the evolutionary descendant of monkeys picking bugs off each other. Human progress. Eventually, words became more precise. Gestures became attached to sounds. Sounds became patterns. Patterns became symbols. Symbols became stories. Stories became memory. Memory became culture. And culture became humanity's real superpower. Because here's the thing. Before language, every generation had to rediscover life. After language, knowledge survived people. Now you could tell children, "Don't eat that berry. Water appears there after rain. That animal kills. That star means winter." Language turned individual experience into collective memory. And collective memory changed everything. But don't imagine some dramatic moment. No caveman suddenly looked up and said, "Gentlemen, today we invent nouns." It was probably invisible, generation after generation. A little more pointing, a little more imitation, a little more shared meaning. Until eventually, someone made a sound. Someone understood. Someone repeated it. And one day, without anyone realizing, humanity crossed a line. Not because people became smarter, but because minds became connected. And every sentence you've ever spoken, every joke, every argument, every love confession, every weird thing you've typed at 2 a.m. might trace back to those evenings around ancient fires, when somebody pointed into the darkness, made a sound, and another human understood.
I've been thinking about what you said, about the stars and where they go. Do you think they ever get lonely, just floating